Hi everyone. So here is Moonlight Soul and Aries Point Project with Beyond Replication, and this time we're getting together to talk about Venus in Aries. Well, currently in Aries, going to go back into Pisces, but that's what we're going to be discussing. So, hi Aaron, nice to meet you. Nice to see you
Hi,
again.
Dina. Yeah, nice to see you again as well. Yes, Aries, Venus and Aries. We both have Venus and Aries.
Yeah, this is a topic that's close to our natal charts,
Yes. Yeah, and a lot of people in my life have Venus and Aries, so it's interesting.
bringing through the new values.
Yes.
So,
Burning.
where should we start?
Well, we could talk about the retrograde process, I suppose.
Yeah, I
Nice.
mean, Venus is still direct until March 1st. But
Yes.
she's already in her shadow, so we are getting ready. And she is already in the sign of Aries. I already had my first Venus return out of three. So, yeah, so it's all happening.
So first of three. Now she'll be going retrograde from 10 degrees of Aries.
10:50, yeah, 10 degrees, 50 minutes. So that's technically Leo Deacon.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we are creating a new sense of value. So I think it's very important for people to understand that Venus, why is Venus even in Aries going retrograde? Well, because Venus was the rule of the South Node. Prior to that, she was the rule of the North Node since 2022. And we had the square to the lunar nodes, throughout the 2023. First square in the South Node in Scorpio, then square in the South Node in Libra. So Venus is kind of like, from my way of understanding, becoming rebirthed. She's going from that Pisces, which is like that dissolving to the source because the old values and the old sense of self and the old relational dynamic, they are no longer in alignment with where we're going. And now Venus is doing this back and forth because we're trying to calibrate, like, okay, what is this new expression that we're seeking? And that's going to be different things to different people.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, especially with Mercury being the current South Node ruler and the calibration is recalibrating. So all the metrics of the previous hierarchy are coming to the forefront so that we can see them for what they were, not as the statics from which to build upon, but the steps in the process from which we're growing through. And that's a very interesting dynamic to think of when you think of Venus and Aries, because it's about rebirthing the new sense of yourself in this process, your own values, your own compassionation, and how we not only we compromise what that is within ourselves, but within others, and how our mind uh, reinforces that through the entrainment of what it is we know, such as knowledge and um, progress and evolution from the communal perspective.
Yeah, and it's
So,
interesting that you already mentioned Mercury because we know Mercury is doing the same thing. Currently, Mercury just entered Pisces a few days ago, but we know Mercury is also going to go retrograde from Aries back to Pisces and then go back to Aries. So it's interesting that the former rule of the South Node and the current rule of the South Node, but technically Mercury is connected to North Node as well because Mercury is the current rule of Jupiter and Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces, so the traditional rule of the North Node. So everything is connected here. And yeah, and Venus is the rule of Uranus, and Uranus is the rule of Pluto. So we can just go in circles connecting everybody by association. But really, Mercury and Venus are going to actually have a conjunction, whilst Mercury is still direct, Venus retrograde. I'm just checking my notes because too many things to remember. In the sign of Aries on 8 degrees 48 minutes, that's going to happen on March 11th. So that will be right before the eclipses. And it's interesting that Venus is going to be retrograde throughout the entire eclipse season. So that's to me what we are experiencing at the moment as a humanity and individuals, because of course, like the individuals create the collective and the collective consciousness. This is like destined. It's like it's happening because it has to happen. There is no more procrastination. We cannot like move this any further into the future because of everything else that's going on. And we know that Neptune, Saturn, Uranus are moving signs this year for the first time, then to stay next year. So it's like this is the year where all these things have to, in a sense, be tidied up. And I feel that this Venus plays a very important role because everything in this reality is relational. Like from the moment we are born into this world, incarnate into the physical form, everything is relational. So this Venus is like doing some very important process over there. And she's stationed in retrograde right after Mars stations direct, which is now on the 23rd. So yeah, this is like there is no coincidence. Nothing is happening by accident, and everything is happening in alignment with everything else to create the energy that is needed for us to process, integrate, and embody at this time to get ready for the next step of our journey, I feel.
Yeah, that's true. And with Mars trining Saturn, Mars retrograde currently about to go direct, and
Yeah.
Mars being the ruler of Aries, we can see that recalibration in the sense of what is the compromise in the process of realizing who you are? How do you turn your experiences from a static into a progressive, into a dynamic? How do you embody life by honoring yourself in this process in these times? And with Aries being, well, the Aries point where we're going to have both Saturn and Neptune conjunct with the North Node later on this year, it's going to be a higher level of calibration through the dissolvement, and not in the judgmental phase where we have been because we just didn't know what the authority was in relation. We knew the information, the data, the history is profound because it has such a large effect on our culture and in our own lives, our own histories, our experiences. But we can see where we are embodying the value of what that can teach us going forward, with Aries being 12th house to um, Taurus.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's
And
what Uranus is.
yes, and Libra being the opposition to Aries, where Libra is a ruler as well as Taurus, and then Venus being in that calibration zone between the Libra point and the Aries point. Uh, when she goes back direct, there's three dings in this process, and so she'll be going back down the shadow path, back up the shadow path. And
Yeah.
in that, that's where we're realizing, awakening to what is the value. And we can see it in the world with the insanities which are rising, where it is almost like the authority of the teacher is seen for what it is. You know, it was a truth when you were in second grade, but when you got to 12th grade, you realized that it was a pretty myopic truth. It was very limited to the time and space of your development.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also interesting that Venus is conjuncting Saturn, North Node, and Neptune three times because of a retrograde, but Mercury is only conjuncting Neptune and North Node three times. Mercury only conjunct Saturn once because it's not going to go far deep into Pisces to conjunct him again. But this is all this back and forth. Like, do we really understand the meaning? And based on our understanding of the meaning, in a sense, like, um, to understand the totality of the cycles before and what did brought for you as an individual because you are experiencing reality through your own lens of experience. Nobody experiences reality the same way as the person next to them. Everybody has their own filter depending on their level of consciousness. Based on that, we then go into this Aries, starting the new cycle with, like you said, the Venus then moving back into Aries, and that Venus she is going to re-enter Aries on the April 30th, and then is going to still remain in shadow until May 16th, which is right after the full moon in Scorpio, interestingly enough. So we have all these opportunities like technically from when Venus moved into Pisces first time, which was January 2nd. So like literally from the beginning of the year until May, because that's when all Venus, Mercury, and Mars will come out of their shadow in May. And then we know that will be the last month of Jupiter being in a sign of Gemini, because then in June, Jupiter moves into the sign of Cancer, Saturn into Aries for the first time. So it's like this year, 2025, I feel is like two completely different years in one, because between now and May it's like all these like working on working, digesting, and trying to process all this stuff that Venus was teaching us through being the rule of the north node and then subsequently being the rule of the south node and the square to the nodes and all the rest of it, and this triple conjunction between Venus, Saturn, north node, and Neptune. Saturn being the structure of reality, Neptune being the source, or that which either gives a meaning or takes the meaning. Either way, it's all correct. And the north node being the evolutionary potential for the humanity, which is to co-create with the spirit, to come back to the true origin of who we are and experience reality through this entirely different lens that is at the moment completely alien to us, because all we see is the totality of manifestation of the past, which was very different. Piscean age and Aquarian age are very, very different ages. So I really feel that between January and May, this is like a lot of processing we all undergoing, especially on an internal level. And that's what Venus is helping us with. And also Mercury, because it's how we connect with reality. And then afterwards, when everybody comes out of shadow and then move forward, I feel like the second half of the year, it will be like a completely different reality, and it will be based on what people learn, like what held meaning for each individual, because then going to Aries, starting the new cycle, and Aries is like the child, right? It's the child, it's like the fool, like creating this completely new direction, which will be unique to you as a unique expression of the source. So I think that's what we are processing at the moment, these realizations of what was, what we want to take with us, and what the potential of the future could be.
Yeah, me pioneering your purity in the process. And with that water and fire, it makes steam, it makes spirit. And when you were talking about that, I thought of lava hitting the ocean. It is essentially, these are elemental expressions forming new foundations here with that Saturn to Mars trine later on. As
Mm.
Venus moves direct, as all the planets move out of their shadow path. And from that foundation, we find new fertile soil, and it's from our relation to ourselves, bringing that forward in an optimal, more balanced way, where your foundation, the resonance of your purity can be used as the metric for reciprocity going forward, rather than the old hierarchical structures of trying to make sense of the Piscean dream. It's
Mm.
okay, we know what it took to get us here. What are we going to do with it? And so it is where you can re-author, where you can re-engage your life in a pioneering spirit with a new sense of value, and how you can co-create not only with others, but with reality on this energy. And there will be a lot of things in the world, a lot of events, and a lot of changing systems that people will be sinking their teeth into to get a sense of what that means to them. And that's right, that's a natural way that it will be triggering us or cueing us into what is valuable. But I feel like if you get a sense of that within yourself right here, right now, you bring that forward, then you're more co-creative and you can respond rather than react in these coming days.
And that's why even like with Mars, Mars is also making three trines to Saturn, North Node, and Neptune, but from the two different signs. And Mars being the ruler of Aries, as you mentioned, so connected to Venus at the moment, and soon Mercury as well. Um, It's very interesting because with Mars is how Pluto acts consciousness, and it is that fire, it is that Aries, it is that like showing up and trying. And even when you were saying like people will be thinking their teeth into, and it's like, like starting like a child when we born, we put everything in our mouth and try everything because we want to know, we want to find out like what it is. So now with all these trines, and especially now Mars as we recording this still being retrograde just about for a few more days, this was the process of us really having the opportunity to dive deep within, and being in Aquarian season and now being in Piscean season as of today when Sun moved into the sign of Pisces. So we had the opportunity to realize like what it is that is now outdated, that is preventing us from living this new path, this new direction that we were exploring with this North Node in Aries until January this year, when North Node was in Aries since July 2023. So there was this inkling of desire that was just like becoming more and more present in our consciousness, especially as the North Node hit the 0 point of Aries at the early January this year. And now we want to act on it because now we understand, because throughout the North Node being in Taurus, we were all learning about our needs and values and what mattered and didn't matter, and with Uranus squaring Saturn there and all these other things that we experienced. And then that all changed, and then we focus like what do I want, which direction I want to go, and what I don't want to do anymore, because it's like a projection of other people or expectations of the other people, and it's not my true expression, is not who I am. Venus last retrograde was in a sign of Leo, that was in summer 2023, right after the nodes shifted into Aries and Libra. And I remember at the time I created a video and called it mistaken identity, because a lot of us are living this charade thinking that we are something and this is then our purpose because we believe this is our identity, but that's not who we are. That's just who we became as a result of our program or conditioning or environment. So now the North Node moving from Aries to Pisces, now is the time to let it all go. So all these planets going retrograde, Mars going retrograde in Cancer, which is the identity, the attachment to the past, the memories which we know because it lives in our ancestor line in Akashic record. And now Mars being the ruler of Venus, and Venus being in shadow preparing for a retrograde, and then afterwards Mercury and all the rest of it. These are all personal planets that are kind of like navigating us through the human experience because they deeply present in our everyday reality, unlike the big planets like Saturn, Jupiter, and especially Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Especially Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they take so long to transit through a sign that we don't really understand what's going on until they're done with it. But with Venus, Mercury, and Mars, it's like very present. We can feel it every day. So I feel that that's why like a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed in a sense by all these things that are happening, but especially happening on the inside, not so much on the outside, even though there are always things happening on the outside, there are distractions, but there are so many things that are happening on the inside of us because we are creating, as you mentioned yourself, this new foundation. And the new foundation has to be created from inside out, because otherwise we will just be replicating the same pattern of the past, the South Node in Libra. And now with the South Node being in Virgo, we are invited to discern and embody the lessons of the past.
Yes. Yeah, true judgment. Saturn is exalted in Libra. We have the external world happening. Many people are affected by those situations, but the lowest common denominator is not a virtue which I'm interested in holding. And so it is by standing in your power, re-pioneering your life through the value shift that you feel within, that you can bring out in this world, you will challenge other people's limitations because they're still burning through what they feel is valuable in this world, what they feel is virtuous. If they have not been able to hold compassionation for themselves in a way which honors everyone, then they'll cling to the externalizations, the historical models, the iconic projections. And then you will show them by living in your truth what the alternative can be.
Mm.
And we will all feel the emotional alchemy of that process as the fire the emotions, the passion meet so that new spirit can be given meaning for rationalization. And this is part of the divine plan. This is how life happens. It is a creative dream. And we bring it into existence through our being. And these times can be very challenging, as all times are. But it's important to realize that, we're all going through these things. And it's good to come to the awareness of the process in yourself when you're up or when you're down, and know that we're all going through that. Some people are able to check out by clinging on to the issues of the world or someone else, or what they feel they got to do because it's an obligation that is an expectation in relation. But you do better for others and yourself when you can live in your own truth rather than co-sign someone else's. You can help them, you can have compassion for others in situations, but do not let that define the limits of your potential or anyone else's.
Hmm.
And I feel that's what we're coming to realize in these times.
Yeah, and that's very much this Venus in Aries.
Hmm.
That you are learning to, in a sense, put yourself first, not in an egocentrical way, even though it can come across that way, because Aries is an immature energy. It just is what it is. It's a new inspiration, new passion. But we're not gonna get any further than that unless we are willing to try it, brave to show up, courageous to show up. And this is a completely different reality. We create in a completely different paradigm, and there is no blueprint because this is an Aquarian age. So it's all about this individuation and authenticity. So that's why this is going to look differently to different people. And it doesn't matter what somebody else is doing, thinking, or believing. If you don't allow it to affect you, like not affect you, like, that we checked out completely and, there's stuff happening in the world and I don't care, but it doesn't determine your value and it doesn't have to determine your path. So it really is about this Aries, like just to find in yourself like what it is that you value, what it is that you need, and more and foremost, how do you value yourself so you open to receiving, so you can start this journey that will be a creation from inside in co-creation with the spirit, because we have the water element involved, like the fire and the water, the fire, the creation, and the water, the spirit, like where the higher self, the source can be present in the co-creation. So this is like what I've been processing and has been coming to me, like where we letting go of these contracts towards each other with regards to this human relation, but we actually switching it for the contract to our higher self, to oneself, so then we can act with one another in a different way that is not karmically bound. There is not that obligation. It's just like we were saying, and I know other channelers were saying, that relationships are not supposed to be obligation. They're supposed to be about co-creation. That's what they call the new relational technology for this Aquarian age. It is not about obligation that I owe you, you owe me, so we have to be together and pay off all these karmic debts. That's all ending, and that's why I feel with Venus being in Pisces and conjuncting Saturn 3 times, especially because Saturn is the chronos, is the time, is the karma, it's that which we came here to pay off or something. But when you become your own leader, your own creator, your own authority, right, which is with the Saturn moving into the sign of Aries, then everything changes because you don't owe anything to anyone. You are co-creating with the spirit. The only person that you are responsible for, well, unless you have obviously children under 18, is yourself, because you cannot learn other people's lesson for them. They have to learn them for themselves. Same as, for each of us individuals, we cannot project our lessons onto someone else, that hey, you didn't do this for me or something. That's all Piscean age. It's all about the hierarchy, us putting people on pedestal or thinking somebody else is better equipped than someone else. But that's all illusion, because we all came from the same place and have an access to the same tools. It just depends on our, in a sense, level of consciousness, but also the level of training. It's not the right word, but I mean, we all came here with different roles, and it's no right and wrong. Everybody has a role to play. Doesn't matter. It's like there's no hierarchy in Aquarian age. But I really feel that with this Venus, transiting through Aries and going back to Pisces and back to Aries, this is what, what it is for many people, learning learning what really matters. And with Venus being the ruler of Uranus, Uranus being the ruler of Pluto, and Uranus also moving into Gemini in July. So we, for the full moon in Aquarius, we'll have all these players in the new signs for 5 minutes. This is very profound shift for humanity, and this is the year of calibration to it, because we don't have like such a big free planets moving in 1 year often. Like, I mean, I don't know if ever, but this is huge shift, and especially because everybody's moving from feminine to masculine. So this is the goal time from next year onward. So we are calibrating to these new frequencies, and it is a step-by-step process. It's not going to change overnight.
That's right. And you mentioned Saturn Chronos, form, Saturn, the child of Gaia and Uranus, according to the mythologies. And Uranus in third decan, the Saturnian decan of
Yes.
Taurus, where Venus rules, and Saturn about to hit 0 degrees Aries, in polarity, in opposition to the Libra point, the galactic center, reality. And what is that? It is a sense of self and relation. So not only is our time changing, your own internal time. I mean, you can feel time and reality has been very weird the
Oh, yeah.
past few months, but especially the past few weeks. And so as Saturn hits 0 Aries, Neptune hits 0 Aries, Mercury and Venus, all the planets in mutual reception are going to be recalibrating to these shifts
Mm.
in these larger cycles, these transpersonal planetary energies come through the Saturnian, Jupiterian. Um, they're not gatekeepers, but they're like repeaters. They re-amplify the energy and they tune them into our conscious awareness, where we can comprehend the larger cycles, where we can see the future for what it is in the here and now, and we can decide, do we hold on to what that has been, or do we honor that by progressing it forward and using this life as a cultivation rather than a culmination of what has been. So living with that honoring is something that we can embody with this Venus and Aries and all these other planets in the retrograde motions here. It's the recalibration can be a reauthoring of yourself and honoring of this world and all of creation. And it is a beautiful and turbulent thing. It's all the emotions coming to the surface so that they can be recognized as they are, not as statics, but as the dynamic flow of who you are in life, reauthoring, becoming the artist of your own life and bringing that out into this world so that you can collaborate with others and existence. And I think that's a big positive that we can't really hold in our awareness with others, generally speaking, because we haven't been able to hold the value of what it is in ourselves.
Mm.
So it's a challenge, but it's a worthy challenge.
Yeah, and that's why we're creating this new foundation. And also the aspect of it is this new way of identifying reality because of this Mercury that was in a new phase conjunction. What was the last last moon we just had? Because he just had a conjunction with the sun. Oh, the Leo full moon, right? The Leo full moon, I think we just had. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so like this is what I mean. I am not. I feel very lost in time. Like the time that we are experiencing at the moment, like we just all shifting timelines all the time. And I'm like, where are we? That's why I have to constantly keep looking at my notes when I want data because like my mind is not attached to time and space and logical details anymore. It's just like somewhere completely different. So anyway, like this Mercury, when it was in conjunction with the yes, it was the full moon in Leo squared by Uranus, and Uranus was squaring Mercury as well, the closing square. So the old way of thinking, the old way of identifying reality, it would be like to be attached to that is just the replication of the past, because we know that the logical mind is the archive of the past. It only knows what already happened. It cannot go outside of that scale because it hasn't experienced it yet. So this is where we step into the unknown territory, into the Aquarian age, into the Aquarian realm, which is the quantum quantum field and the Piscean realm, which is the spirit realm. And both of those are intangible because Uranus, they are past Saturn, and Chiron is the key. Chiron is in Aries. Obviously, Chiron, well, currently squared by Mars, but it's going to have trine when Mars moves back into a sign of Leo, Leo the creation, Leo the child, right? And currently Mars also is like Mars transiting through the sign of Cancer is preparing us for Jupiter moving into Cancer, because Mars is pointing us inwards with the arrow that you need to focus on your inner landscape, obviously being ruled by the moon, which is continuously moving, understanding that we are continuously changing because we are embodying the multidimensional essence of who we are. So not to be attached to any one identity and limit ourselves. Saturn, Capricorn, putting ourselves in the box, the restriction, because that's not who we are anymore. With the Gemini is the choice, and that's where Jupiter is, expanding everything, expanding the opportunity for our consciousness to tap into all these myriad of possibilities and opportunities and timelines that are becoming available to us with the Aquarian age quantum field. Everything exists in a quantum field, right? Everything that is not yet manifested, and we know the manifested form is the minimal percentage of all there is, maybe 1%, if that. So for us to go beyond what we've experienced, beyond what we perceived and identify as reality until this point, we have to go beyond that. So Mercury also going Pisces, Aries. This is resetting the way we think and identify reality, because Mercury and our communication, and as you mentioned multiple times, Mercury being the messenger of the gods, this is how we connect with the reality. The Gemini, Libra, and the Aquarius, the grand air trine. This is how we telepathically are connected to everything, right? Through the ether, through because that's what we are. We are these electromagnetic beings. The hearts are connected. The heart is electromagnetic. The heart responds first, the Leo. So we can see how everything is connected here. And these transits, like when we look at them in separation, they are still part of the bigger picture. They are not just doing their own thing separately from everybody else. Everything is connected by the ruleship association, or just like how the signs communicate between each other. And this is all to create this new foundation for the Aquarian age, which is very different from the foundation that helped us to survive until this point, which is why for so many people it's so chaotic and erratic and like in a sense traumatic, because it's bringing out all these fears, which is, again, the ego, the fear of the unknown. And they're saying, okay, we're moving away from the known, we're moving away from everything our ancestors gone through to help us to survive so we could be born in this time and place. And this is what, most people are struggling with, the fear of the unknown. Like, how can I trust that which we're going into, if it doesn't even have a form, is going to support me? And that is the whole thing, that no, you cannot like logically explain it, because then we'll be replicating the past. So
Yeah,
that is a vicious
replicated.
circle.
Yeah, it's the response. It's reacting to the replicated responses of what you've known and what has been possible. I mean, with this energy of Mercury heading into Aries, it is spiritualization, and in your consciousness is essentially not what you know, but what you can know. And what you can know is what will you allow, and that's self-compassionation. If you can't feel the value of anything out there or anything possible, it means there's something within you that you're digesting, you're burning through. And that's what we're being given, a gift to understand what that is. So that all these externalizations, all the projections to the iconic perfection, all that has been the hierarchy of value as we have known it is shifting. So we're recalibrating. And as you know, when you're born, it starts within. You learn, you have the experiences without, and then those help to form you. And that's the Saturnian energy, time and field, time and space. And so reauthoring what that can be consciously means that you have the opportunity, and you will be given the opportunities to respond rather than to react. And you can't truly respond if you're not open to the new. And the only way to do that is to make room for it by burning through what is known and
Mm.
seeing them for what they are. They're static steps in a progression through time, and you're learning what the value of that is. And it is something that's always in the forefront of my mind ever since I've been a child, because you're cast into the experience. You have to hold the energy to know what it is. And in that process, the spirit is born in you. And as you burn through that, that's where you're given the passion and the zest and the understanding that there's more to life than what you've known. And then you recalibrate yourself, you rebalance what that is through creation, and you're given that opportunity every day. And it takes time.
Yeah, it's this continuous launching of the rockets of desire, right? As Abraham Hicks would put it, because that's evolution, that source, like this Pluto in the simplest form of identifying, as we were being taught in EA, is the soul's desire for incarnation. So the soul must have a desire, otherwise we wouldn't even come here. Like, what would be the point? If there is no desire, there is no meaning. So each of us being here in a physical form at the moment, there was a desire of the soul to come back to earth, for expansion, right? To experience something, to experience it in a different way. And obviously there are multiple layers of everything that's happening simultaneously with that, like the expansion of oneself, the healing of the collective, the healing of the ancestor line, the creation of the future time. Everything is happening simultaneously, but there is always a desire, because if there is no desire, there is no life. So that's why even this conditioning by most of the time religion, that desiring is sinful, like, is the biggest BS there is, because when you stop desiring, you will die, because there is no life without desire. There is no incarnation with desire. There is that the Pluto, the sign of Pluto, the incarnation cross, right? And the circle of life, and then the cup, which is the cup of receptivity. There has to be a desire. We have to receive something. We need to desire to receive something in order for us to even want to be here, to want to be born. And that's the other thing, right? With the Taurus, most people, they would say like, oh, Taurus people, they're selfish or they're materialistic or whatever, all these limiting beliefs that we have about technically any sign, really. But and also Aries, even more so, people would say like, oh, the children are selfish or self-centered or anything. But everything is self-centered in this universe, because everything has a center of self, a center of itself, around which everything else rotates, and that's the sun. And the sun is the purpose, and the sun is the heart consciousness. So if there is no desire, if there is no purpose, if there is nothing that our soul through the heart, physical human heart, is desiring, then there is no life, because then there is no creation. And if there is no creation, then there is death, then there is a Scorpio, there has to be a metamorphosis. That's why when people don't desire, they die. And when they die, then they go through the Scorpio thing, changing of the form, and then eventually they come back with a new desire, right? So that's the thing. So like, we were all being sold bag of BS. And literally, with all this Mercury going through Pisces and Aries, Venus going through Pisces and Aries, Saturn, Neptune going through Pisces and Aries, Mars going through, Cancer, and then going back to Leo, all this fire and water, we have the opportunity to tune in, tap in, and really feel into what is the truth for you, even though we know the truth is malleable, because, I mean, Jupiter is Gemini, but even if it wasn't, it's mutable sign. And just to decide for yourself, and this is the Aquarian age, the individuation, the heart-centered consciousness, you're going to allow your heart to lead you no matter what the brain is saying, based on the data of the past. And this is a very different way of living. And it takes some time, like as you said also, to adjust to this frequency. And this is why we're going through what we're going through. And probably for most people, most of it makes no sense, no logical sense. Like, even for me, like, I feel like, well, what's going on in my life? It makes no sense. I can't really, put a sense onto it exactly. But that's not the point. It's not supposed to make sense, because if it makes sense to the logical mind, that means you're just recreating the past. So we're breaking free from that. And through that process, we're learning to trust the unknown, the trust and surrender. And the last thing I want to say is very interesting, that a year ago, when we had the solar eclipse in Aries, Mars was in the sign of Pisces. So that already was, because it was in a new phase conjunction with North Node, the first one, that already was the indication of this, that the future, the Aries, the cycle of the Aries, the solar eclipse in Aries, the first one in a new phase conjunction with North Node, because the one prior that we had on 29 degrees a year before that, that was still in a closing phase because the North Node was still in a sign of Taurus. We're talking about eclipses 2023. So the one that happened in April 2024, Mars as the ruler was in Pisces. So that was already a precursor of what we are experiencing now in a real time and place, that we are learning how to co-create with spirit through quantum field, invisible realms, and it's not something that most of us know how to do, which is why we're going through the processes we are going through right now.
Yeah, well said. And if you think of Leo from Pisces, that is the unconscious being made conscious through the ritual of your being, your happening, your doing. And with Venus going through Aries, Mars heading into Leo, I feel like what we learn in our own sense of value allows our passion to burn pure and to reinvigorate the heart so that Mercury, the messenger of the gods, can be more centered in a truth of the unknown, which is in the feeling center. Most people in life, myself included, it's hard to feel because you feel so much in this world. It's hard to put any value in feelings. So it drives you into what is the metrics? What do the pros say? What does the history tell us? What can we all gravitate to and we can all claim to be the new God? What is the data that shows us the meaning? And that's the part that we're burning through. Because as you said, replication is to know what the future holds. And that puts you in the state of battling with the passion and the feeling within yourself and using it as using the world and what you've known as a metric from which to gauge that. But you might be tuned perfectly, but your scale may not be moving with the changing times. You might be sinking into still looking at the world as it was when you were a child, or 100 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, 2,600 years ago. So we, heading into the Aquarian age, which I believe we are now, on the anaretic degree, a lot of the darkness, because it is the full plenum potential of Aquarius, is the carry through from the Piscean age. We have to burn through the metrics and the hierarchy of the past, and more so the experiences we carry in our blood through the ancestors, the trauma convictions. Uranus, the modern ruler of Aquarius, it is the memory of all,
Exactly.
not just the pain, but the beauty, the joy, the love, all of creation. And so to single out what we focus on is really re-entraining yourself to the potential. And to do that is to release what you've known, honor it for what it is, a step in your progression, and use that energy of the Taurian sensibilities as a cultivation rather than holding on to it and claiming your power in a static. And that's very appealing to everyone in this world because we don't honor the new unless it's sanctioned, unless it is bought and paid for by, sponsored by this group, this idea, this order. So it's a battle of beliefs, but it is also just the natural progression of life and its creativity, chaos. Chaos is uncontrolled, and it is a beautiful thing.
Well, and this was the number five has been coming up a lot. Let's have a look. It's 1505, so it's 11. But yeah, like, even just the fact that, like you said, like there has to be sponsors and stuff, or like, there's always like people are always waiting for somebody to get together with them to like validate that which they desire, that it's called a value or something. But actually, with this Taurus, and I feel because, Uranus, as you mentioned already, Uranus is now in a Capricornian decan. You need to decide for yourself what holds a value. And then the right people will come and join you because it will have the same value for them. but it's no longer about somebody decide this holds the value, like fashion trends or something, and then everybody else not to feel inferior or to feel ashamed and guilty for not following. They want to follow because it's that, what is it called, FOMO? Yeah, nobody wants to be the one left behind, like, oh, but this is like, we just create this the same cycles of suffering where people are pretending to be someone and valuing something that they are not, and that they don't really value, but they just don't want to be left behind. And that is all that Taurus in this survival mode, the lower vibration, the lower frequency, which is something that is deeply installed in all of us, believing that I need this outside something, the Scorpio, the external power to help me to survive. And that's how it was for thousands of years. And that was the only way to be. And it held a meaning and purpose. This is where we always have to look at that these things were not wrong. They just not in alignment with where we are right here, right now. But at the time where they were in operation and they were valued, even the religion or even the structure, even the consensus, even all of it that now we perceive as something that doesn't quite feel right, doesn't quite fit the time and age we are experiencing. But at the time when it was birthed, at the time when that was Aries quality, it held a value, it held a meaning. It was what was created from the desire that held a meaning. But now we have to look at 21st century and where we are evolutionary, and each person to decide for themselves, does this still hold the same value for me just because it held value for my ancestors? We are not disrespecting them by making our own choice, because these ancestors, when they come back as Pluto Aquarius, Pluto Pisces, Pluto Aries, Pluto whatever, they will be playing with a completely different level of consciousness of everything that was experienced on this planet between when they die and came back, reincarnated in a new form. Because you never will be exactly who you are now. You never were and never will be exactly who you are right now. And that's why even astrology, everything is cyclical. Yes, everything comes around, but it's never the same, because everything else changed, right? Just because America is currently having Pluto return, but America is a very different country than it was when first time it was Pluto, whatever. So that's what I mean, things are continuously changing, growing and evolving, and we have to keep growing and evolving with it. And the fact that a lot of the things that previously, whether our ancestors or us as our ancestors, us in our previous incarnation, experienced as something of a meaning and value, but now it doesn't feel right. We don't have to feel bad about it. We just are grateful for thank you, because that just shows me how far I've come, and give ourselves the grace and, yes, compassion, and also acknowledgement. Thank you for all the old versions of myself, whether it was me or ancestors or whoever, that had to go through everything they had to go through to get to the point where I am, to realize by contrast that this doesn't feel right. And that just shows me that I outgrown this experience. But how many people struggle with that because the foundation is not strong, because it was about survival rather than valuing ourselves and our own inner compass, which is, yes, our body, our emotions, but also your body, how you feel, how your body responds to everything we are experiencing. So this is like we are attuning ourselves, we are learning to attune ourselves to our own guiding systems, whether it's the body or the emotions or the intuition or whatever it is, that is unique to each person, and is going to tell you exactly what is right for you. And then moving from the survival instinct to this, I didn't come here to survive. That I've done that for thousands of years. I came here to thrive, and the only way I'm going to find out what will give me the sense of thriving is for me to find the answer from within, not from without. So yeah, I don't even know whether that makes any sense, because I feel
Oh,
like I go in million different direction. But yeah, for me, Taurus, obviously being biased with the Sun in Taurus and North Node in Taurus, the foundation starts from you. So you decide. You decide what is important to you. But first and foremost, is the relationship we have to cultivate towards oneself.
yes. Yes, survival, not survival.
Yeah, exactly. I know I wasn't born to survive. No thanks.
Yeah, I know. It might look good on paper, but it's not really honoring life. It's not honoring potential. And we are afforded the opportunity in this day and age to hold that meaning, to know what that meaning actually is. We don't need to live in caves. We don't need to live underground. We don't need to stock soup cans. We got everything you need is within you. but you won't know it until you uncover what that could be because you're holding on to the images of the past and the experiences. And the experiences are meant to teach you, not to be the rule. They're
Hmm.
meant to be the guide. Just like culture, society, it's not your friend, it's your teacher, and it allows you to grow through those experiences. And the contrast is what we hold on to because it gives us a sense of self, especially in this world, it's always changing. So we want to build things that last. It gives us a sense of security, but cultivating what that is within yourself, investing in the soil of the self, tilling your own field, allowing the blooming of your own spirit through this mind rather than the replicated response of the past in the monoculture mindset, which has been forced upon us, forced through us for good reason, because we needed it in times. Now is the time where we can say, okay, let's honor what that is, but let's step outside that box. Let's get out of the martyr, victim, tyrant, savior. Let's get out of all the cataclysmic cycles and move into the survival experience rather than survival. And these are what these times are for me. And it isn't easy. And that's how you know it's valuable. You know, nothing easy is, it's seldom worth doing. There are a few things, but when in terms of self-development and growing beyond your limitations, it isn't easy. And that's how you know it's worth your time and effort.
Yeah, but if it was easy, you wouldn't recognize the growth.
Hmm.
Because in a sense, like the growing pains, right? We need to feel it. We need to go through the experience to then be able to understand what took place and also to see the contrast in ourselves. Like, okay, I can now observe, I don't know, myself responding in a different ways or understanding situation differently that I would have a few years ago or something. So I feel that this is process that most people, I don't know, obviously I don't want to generalize, but most people are going through right now, like to have that real, especially because Mars just stopped being the rule of the North Node and then went retrograde. I mean, he went retrograde while he was still the rule of the North Node. But it's really interesting that we had to go through everything we had to go through to understand that we've moved past it already. It's like it's just the body and the reality, manifested reality, has to catch up. But energetically, we already transcended that. That's why it doesn't feel good. Like when we even look at the history, and I use that example many times, people watching gladiator games or somebody's head being chopped off or being hanged on in front of the gate of the city. That was entertainment, right? People would get together and watch that and they thought it was funny or something. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking at the time. And we look back at it and think like, oh, whoa, like what barbaric behavior or whatever. But at the time, it was normal. At the time, based on the level of consciousness and the life people lived, that was normal. That was acceptable. Not acceptable anymore. Even like wars, even my parents' generation would say, well, that's normal. That's what always been on this planet. That's what's always been happening. There always was a war. Where, not from what I understand with regards to ancient history, but anyway, it's not about right or who is right and who is wrong, because everybody's got their lens of perception. But the point is, how many people, when they watch war or something, feel good about it at this time and age? Not many, because energetically and spiritually and vibrationally our consciousness moved past that point. We are just trying to catch up while we're in a physical form. That, oh yeah, this it doesn't sound like it's something in alignment with where we are and where we're going, especially with the Aquarian age, which is the heart-centered consciousness and everybody being equal and everybody having the right to be authentic and blah blah blah, all the rest of it. So then why are we still experiencing everything we've been experiencing for the past few thousand years and it doesn't feel right? Because we outgrown it. So now we are learning to embody the difference and go towards what feels better. And this means different things to different people. But in order for us to even recognize that, oh, this is what I'm experiencing, we need to be attuned to ourselves, to our inner compass, to our emotions, be in our body. And that is the hardest task for most people, because we're living in a society that is continuously distracting us and keeping us on the hamster wheel in this sympathetic nervous system mode of like, oh, I'm being chased by a tiger, continuously being stressed, whether it's your wife or whether it's your boss or whether it's whoever, but we constantly being chased by the tiger. So we never get to rest. Even when we sleep, we don't get to rest because we're worried about money or something. So we never ever get to rest. So we never even have a time to just breathe and just be chilled and just to be digesting things. And that's why these spiritual practices are so essential for people to give themselves these 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day to be able to cultivate this inner presence and connection with oneself, to actually be able to connect with their inner guidance system to realize these things. And then to start making slow adjustments, slow move, like changes in their everyday life, the Virgo, the mundane everyday life, that eventually will create massive change and allow for more of the spirit to be present in our everyday reality. Because with the age of Aquarius and polarity Leo, it is all about birthing this reality that is based on joy and like childlike innocence and creativity and stuff. And that for most people sounds like a complete utopia, like something that is completely impossible. But we know, well, we don't know, but we, understand, some of us, that this is how they operate in a higher dimensions. The different species, different starseed family, the beings that live in a higher dimensions, like fifth dimension and upper, this is how they operate. This is how they operate. They understand why we operate the way we operate, but we don't understand how they can operate that way because we are in a 3D, not in a 5D. But more and more people are going between 3 to 5D, some even higher. And it is not about traveling somewhere else. It's about different way of perceiving reality. You're not going anywhere. You're still here, but you are perceiving that which you are looking at completely differently. So it's more about finding the peace and the sense of harmony within oneself. And then it doesn't matter what's going on outside of you because the way you're going to be understanding what's happening will be different. So, and this is in the process, this is not something that anybody can do for anybody else, which is the whole point, because otherwise there will be still that Capricorn, the guru, or that icon, or the God, or someone that we externalize our power to make us feel liberated or powerful. So that's why each of us is going through this process of death and rebirth in a sense of one way or another to learn this, because there's no other way to thrive in the age of Aquarius. Otherwise, we'll be looking at the lowest vibration of age of Aquarius, which is the technocracy and the slavery through technology and all that. Because all of these things are encompassed in these archetypes, but which frequency you're going to be tapping into depends on the choice you are making right here, right now, because that's the only thing that exists, the right here, right now. So this is why this year, and especially these first 4 months of this year, are so pivotal.
Yeah, you covered a lot of good things. That's the Ahrimanic expression. It's catalyzing truth through mind, conception and conceptuality. And we know it, like if you look at the progression of the ages, or micro to macro, look at your family, your parents, how they were brought up. They brought you up in a similar way, slightly different, but you're progressing the consciousness of what they were entrained into, what their parents were, etc. So it's not that it was just bad or good. It was what it was in the form of the progression. We're cultivating psyche at a mass level in this 5D to 3D and beyond. That's your consciousness. When you can understand, feel the value of the potential over the known, that's how you bridge consciousness. That's how you allow for life to co-create through you, with you. And you do not fall into the obsessions or the possessions of the material world and what was known, but you fall into the Tao, the flow of reality as it is, a continual change. And from that place, you can create authentically as the ignorant youth, as the purity of the child, the source of creation. It is what you bring into this world and how you embody that which counts. And we have that opportunity to hold that and know what that value is. And all these energies which arise within us help us to understand that, with Jupiter in Gemini going direct, it is what is the language beyond the authority? What's in the darkness? What is the language of yourself? How do you reauthor your own authority in ignorance? You can't do it in fear. You can't do it in survival. You have to understand the value of yourself is in what you could become, not what you have been. I mean, we all can lean on our past and our accomplishments and our good deeds, and we can all point to the bad deeds and our mistakes and everything. But really, what they are, they're just steps in your awareness, your progressional conscious awareness. And if you can feel the value in it, you'll hold it. And when you can feel the value in it, it's because you've burned through the denials and the lowest common denominator outcomes, which seep in through the larger scale societal cultural norms, which imprint upon us. And we honor that. We honor the sacrifice and all the darkness by bringing new light into this world and making it more than what it could have been.
Exactly, and that is literally the choice people are making or having the opportunity to make now, especially with Jupiter still being a sign of Gemini. It's amplifying all these stories and program and belief system, and in many cases, depending where it lands in your chart, but in many cases, regardless, it is making it so unbearable because everything is so intense right now, and because things are happening so quickly, we are being bombarded by so much at a short period of time, and having the opportunity to transmute and transcend a lot of the past in a short period of time. But it really depends on, again, we go back to Taurus, like how strong is your foundation? Do you trust yourself? Do you believe in yourself that you can create something different from that which you came from? And also, do you believe you deserve it, and are you open to receiving it? Because many of us still struggle with that inherited sense of guilt and shame, which is the Virgo, right, the opposition to the Piscean age, because we were being programmed to believe that in order to deserve anything we have to be perfect, that we have to be certain way that is being dictated by some external entity, some external authority, right? So this is what many of us have to heal and overcome. Well, not even overcome, but like rise above, right? And it's also the re-nurturing of the inner child, which is this Mars in the sign of Cancer also. Like a lot of our sense of security is being challenged at the moment with Mars still retrograde in a sign of Cancer, because we are looking up to the Capricorn, the external entity, again, to make us feel safe and secure. So that's why many of us don't feel safe and secure within ourselves, but it's again because we disconnected from the true essence of who we are. And we allow these label identities to create our sense of oneself, which is not who we are. It's just the role we came here to play and embody and experience life through that lens as a fool, right? Fool on our journey through, the 78 passages of experience of being human. And then it all goes from the beginning anyway. So it's the reset point, which will be next year, the 10, the 1 and 0 reset point. So this is what we all preparing for in this year number 9, which is this hermit, right? This going within to find the star of the Aquarius, the star of the future, of what the potential for you can become. And that is yeah, that is the in conjunction between Virgo and Aquarius. You don't know. You don't know because the previous experience cannot tell you. It can just show you the contrast and create the desire, but you don't know what the future will be like, because then it wouldn't be authentic. It wouldn't be the Leo, right? It wouldn't be the strength, which we cultivated last year to prepare ourselves for this. So everything is continuously connected and just creating more layers of the same thing to help us deeper understand ourselves and who we really are and what we came here to do, and bridging the gap from this, as you mentioned, the martyrdom and savior and persecutor and all these different characters that we came here to play, to just say, no, I'm not playing this karma wheel no more. I'm just being me, the I am that I am, embodying all these different characters, which can change at any time because of the Gemini, everything is mutable, everything is continuously changing. And with this Jupiter that is going to square the lunar nodes before moving into Cancer, Jupiter is giving us the opportunity to decide, to decide, a choice, the Gemini, to decide what it is that you want. Because right now, with Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, the old karmic contracts are dissolving. We are being freed from the karmic contracts. But if you believe that you're not, then whatever you believe is your truth. But karmically, astrologically, destiny wise, in alignment with the Aquarius and all the rest of it, we are being freed from the karma wheel if you decide that that's what you want, and then we being presented with a blank slate of paper, and we can become the conscious magicians, but that takes a lot of responsibility, because then you have to be your Capricorn and take responsibility for your creation. So that's why I also feel that so many of us, the more work we do, the more shadow work and stuff, we are able to embody more and more of our spiritual gifts, because those also need to be used responsibly for betterment of all, not for a party tricks. So this is all happening, and in a sense, it is the most magical thing, because humanity has never been more free than it is now, and having the opportunity to be completely free. Like I mean, we've always been free, but like just that physical experience of the freedom, humanity has never been more free than it is now. And with regards to astrological and all these energies of the universe that are available to us now, because of all the work that's been done on this planet in the past 10,000 years, and especially the past 2,000 years, we now been granted the key to the universe. We've been given this beautiful gift of the present moment to create a completely different future that each of us can create for themselves, but nobody told us how to do it. So that's why we're starting from the scratch. These Aries, right? And all we need to really do is just to show up and be willing.
Exactly. Yeah, that hermit, and the hermit transforms as the fool. All that time you spend digesting the emotions, it allows for the purity of your inner child to be graced and to embody what that is. And that's part of the process. That's part of what we've been going through forever. It's the cycle, it's part of the circuit. And this is part of the work, and it is part of the opportunity for us. And in these times, I don't know, when you sit and you feel the emotions, it's not fun. I would rather be out doing things, getting my mind attached to things so that I can project it into icon, I can battle it out there. But I'm tired of the hamster wheel. The only foundation, the only truth that could ever be is only found within. And once you find the capacity to hold the potential, then you reciprocate the realizations without. You're able to resonate with the elemental expression as a full-scale spectrum expression, rather than the entrainment of what has been and what you're burning through, what you're digesting through your experiences, through your families, your cultures, your societies. And it is part of this this cyclical expression. And yeah, I don't know. It's powerful times.
So funny, because when you said the circuit, the word circus popped into my head, and circuses are always like round. They always like in the shape of a wheel, right? Like the circus, and like that's what I mean. It's not funny, and obviously a lot of things people are experiencing in the world are not funny, and that at some point will hit everyone, because like we came here to experience the whole spectrum of human emotions, but it is a circus. I mean, bottom line of it is just a big circus over here, like and even like when we started with the dreams, because we are at the end of the day in the Pisces season as of today. This is a dream. This is a dream that the soul dreamed for itself to experience through the living present, that human form, through the form. So we dreamed this dream, before we were born, before we incarnated into the physical. We dreamed this dream. We created this life plan, right? And then now we're living it up, and now we coming to the end of it while we being still incarnated in a physical, because nobody, even the prophets and even the Mayans and even whoever, Nostradamus, don't know what the hell was going to be happening after 2030 or whatever, maybe even 2012, because the humanity made a choice that we are ready to ascend, we are ready to go beyond 2012. And yeah, that's when many people were expecting the end of the world. And then again, 2020 or 2021 or whenever the hell it was, and at some point that's true, each of these, every time, every day, every year, the world as we knew it ended. The version of ourselves that we were died, like everything is continuously being reborn. And now obviously being in Pisces season, this is the final sign, the final month of the zodiac. So we are going to be reborn with regards to astrological calendar, from the equinox onwards, in the middle of eclipses. So yeah, so it is a dream, it is a circus, it is whatever you want to call it. But we forgot, and we just fell for the Maya, the illusion of separation, and we thought that this is all there is, and this is all I am, this label, this avatar, this ancestor line, all of this. But we are everything, and everything is connected to everything. Even when I speak to my client, I say all our ancestors were connected. It doesn't matter where they were born. It doesn't matter who they were, what they believed. It doesn't matter, because each of our ancestors were connected by time and space. So they were all living at certain period of time when the same stuff was hitting the planet, happening on the planet at the time, and that is all imprinted in their DNA. That was all being absorbed by Pluto and then passed on to the next generation. And it really doesn't matter where in the world they lived and what they went through, because all of that was being put into this Akash and then passed on to the next generation in through the DNA, through Pluto. And we are all connected, even when they make all these crazy tests on mouses and stuff. And I know that there was some experiment when they're like, I don't know, they did some horrible thing to mice, electrocuted them or whatever. And then don't know how many generation later, mice, when they heard the static or something, they started freaking out, even though they never had that experience. Even now, like us, if just we hear the world war, even though I never experienced it in this lifetime, but we all have an emotional response, because everything that ever happened on this planet exists in every single one of us. So this story about division and separation is exactly what it is, a story. A division is an illusion, because we all connected at all times, and it doesn't matter who you are, right? So this is what we starting to understand, hopefully eventually, that we are not really separate. But it doesn't mean, and this is the paradox, it doesn't mean that we're supposed to be copy paste. There would be no need for 8 billion people to occupy this planet if that was the desire of the source. That's why we have so many different religions and cultures and spices and cuisines and the taste flavors of gelato and whatever, because we all meant to be here to experience something different, unique expression of the source. And this is what we are now learning. But we need a strong foundation. And before that, we need the desire. And this is what, I've been sharing multiple times with multiple people. You need to want to be here. You need to have the desire. The desire has to come from within, to want to create different life for yourself and for the world. But it has to start from within, because we are all self-centered, and there's nothing wrong with that, because everybody's got a sun, and sun is the center of your universe, is the center of your chart. So this is it. We need to let go of this guilt and shame that said that, oh, I need to sacrifice to be a good person, to be, I don't know, validated by someone out there to give me cookies or brownie points and stuff. And where did that get us? Being full of society that is insecure and continuously projecting, and everybody just feels like the whole world is out there to either get them or owns them something. That's not in alignment with Aquarian age. So we are all calibrating to these new frequencies, whether we're ready or not, because
Yeah,
that's just what it is.
exactly. I know with Uranus, the memory, the eternal memory, mental trauma loops, but more so than that, it's all memory, as you mentioned. Everything that's happened up to this point is encoded within the physical form and probably in other dimensions, other Ds, not just 3D. But we are not just mere batteries with the capacitance of consciousness as it has been. We're creators. We hold the capacitance of this consciousness to recreate, to propagate, to progress all of this form and all that has been. And this is an honor to live. It is an honor to be able to hold the value in what that could be. And that's how you tap into the Uranian field North Node in Gemini. When Uranus goes back into Gemini, all the work, every transit up until that point is helping to tune us in, prepare us for that shift. And all this energy that we feel now, all the eternal memories of the past, all the storylines of all dimensions rising up in our consciousness, 8 billion people, we're expressing, we're feeling all these emotions, and we're bringing these emotions into a more refined expression beyond the replication of what has been, but into the eternal memory of what could be as it progresses through reality. And when you can hold that concept, when you can hold the meaning and what that could be, you know that you've been able to burn through the trials and tribulations and the programming and the narratives of what you've been holding on to as a source of survival instinct. And you're turning into the survival energies and that self-authored creation, that co-creation. And we're coming into the authority of what that can be. And when you honor it in yourself, you can honor it in others. And when mutual reception is gained through perception, then people stop playing the narratives. They see the songs coming back and they just turn it off and say, all right, I'm going to play a new song here. And this is the opportunity we have now. And this is how it's always been. It's always progressing. But it isn't always that we've had such powerful allies in the transformation of the times. And in this transformative time, we can feel all that. And that's part of the tension we feel. We bring that into form as Saturn is reborn in the 0 degrees of Aries. And this Venus, what have you compromised? You got to feel the guilt, the shame, and the rebelliousness of what that is, so that you can move beyond that and allow Mars and your passion to rise into a purity, so that you recalibrate through creation rather than replication. And this is what we're going through, I feel, right now.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like also why we're learning to master our thoughts and master our emotions. And like you said, yeah, like feel it. Let's all feel it. Like let's all feel what we need to feel, because if we don't feel it, then the feelings are emotions, the energy in motion. They are the messengers. They are just giving us a message. But it's important for us to start understanding that you are not these emotions, right? We are experiencing these emotions, but they don't belong to me. Like I wasn't born as the only person with this stuff. It's being passed on to me by genetics, by DNA, and the human conditioning, and the human experience, that this is what I have the ability to feel. But the whole point is that we are not any of these things. We are not the labels, we are not our thoughts, we are not our emotions, but we are experiencing them. So when we don't get attached to them, then we can actually set ourselves free. It doesn't mean they don't exist. It doesn't mean I'm not experiencing them, but I'm not limited by that. I'm not limited by this experience. I'm not just a depressed person. Okay, I'm experiencing some depression or something, but it's something that is transiting, something that's temporary, because it's so easy to fall under these labels that this is who I am, this is how I feel, so this is who I am, and that's all I am. And then it's the self-fulfilling prophecy, and we just like start believing our own stories, and then we get more and more disempowered and stuck in a rut because we feel that that's all there is. So that's why like we need to feel all of these things, but understand that these are not yours. You are just experiencing them in the right here, right now, through the experience you have in right here, right now. But you are processing, I am processing, we are all processing stuff that is old thousands of years. Because our ancestors and people living on this planet 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000 years ago, they all felt these emotions. The details of the story were different, but these emotions were the same. But now we are much more conscious about which ones of these are no longer in alignment. Like feeling guilty, ashamed, that was perfectly appropriate, even encouraged in a dark age. Now it's not. This is not in alignment with the time and age we live in now. So that's why, yes, we feel in all these residue, all these after effects of Piscean age, because it has to be felt, it has to be processed. The energy cannot be destroyed, it can only change form. So we have to go through these processes. Is the North Node in Pisces, the flooding. We have to go through the flooding of everything that's unresolved from the past, and we all doing that. It's not like it's solely on my shoulders or your shoulders or that person's. No, we all in this process. Everybody incarnate is tapped in, even though the young ones, they work a little bit differently with all of this. They just let it bounce off because they know this is not who I am, with their boundaries. But we all going through this in one way or another, and this is the opportunity to transmute and completely transcend and release this Piscean residue. I wanted to say curse, but it's not a curse, it's a residue, okay, to move from this one era into another one. And yes, we are in the analytic degree. We are in the first 100 years of Aquarian age that is going to be on for another 2000 plus years. So we have no blinking clue about what Aquarius is about, especially because we're talking about Aquarius, which is all about changing the pattern. So of course we need Venus, Mercury, and everybody going through Aries because we have no clue. So let's just not get attached to any labels and think that, oh, I have it all figured out. I know exactly what's happening and where we're going. Not really. You might know it for yourself, and even that would be an illusion, but you definitely don't know it for anybody else. And this is the change. You're no longer here to look out to someone else to tell you. No. You are seeking the answers within and also understanding that they will keep changing as you will keep change, and the world around you will keep changing. And that is the Aquarius, right?
Yeah.
So we're breaking free from all the boxes, all the narratives, all the labels, all the attachments, everything.
Even
And that's why we need this Arian energy.
Yeah, we're breaking free from Aquarius itself. All the archetypes are changing. You know, it is
Yes.
breaking free of what you have known, what we have believed. And so there is no static. It's all shifting. So as you mentioned, the archetypes are changing. The mythologies are coming back alive to be recreated or progressed, rewritten, to be mythologized in new. And if you knew what it was, you wouldn't be able to create it. So we will be replicating what we can in our own personal mythologies until we can compassionate what is the value of change. What can I release? What have I burned through? What no longer serves me? What no longer is in resonance with reality? And that's what you bring forward. And that's where you stand on the top of Capricorn. And you're like, okay, this is Aquarius. Now I see the ocean and the sky are meeting somewhere out there. I can't see what that is. And that impels you forward. And it's not necessarily from what you can sense in the future, it's what you can feel within yourself, which is bringing the spirit through the emotional transformation. And that's the star card, the Cancer. And this is part of the process, I feel.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, we could just go on for another 2 hours.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's wrap this up.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, well, that was a good talk. I appreciate it, Mila.
Yeah, it's always good to get together to co-create,
Hmm.
right? All right. So how about you tell people where they can connect with you?
Okay, well, Aries Point Project on YouTube, Nuclear Gnosis on TikTok, and Aries Point Project on Instagram. Just reach out if you're interested in an advisement session or a discovery call, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. So thanks for the time again, Mila.
My pleasure.
And
And yeah, until next time, we dive into some other interesting topics. So everybody, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one. Bye.
take care. Bye.